Hey there, I'm Chaos Origin, here to tell you about Last Epoch, a truly wonderful ARPG developed by 11th Hour Games, fully released in February 2024. Before going into any details, I want to talk about the other games in the genre I've played, which is at least mildly relevant. In 2002-2003, I started with Diablo 2, and a bit later its expansion Lord of Destruction, and since I've also played Sacred, Titan Quest, Diablo 3, including Reaper of Souls, Grim Dawn, and Path of Exile, and ultimately Last Epoch during Early Access in November 2022. The other games all brought something interesting to the genre, and Last Epoch is taking inspiration from them. Last Epoch features 5 distinct classes, each with their own unique passives and skills. The classes focus on different stats for their damage and survivability. While Sentinel allows to gain massive amounts of armor, the Mage stacks Ward, similar to Path of Exile's energy shield, and no ARPG is complete without a class like the Rogue focusing on dodging. The defensive stats of the game also include resistances to the 7 damage types: Fire, Cold, Lightning, Physical, Poison, Necrotic, and Void, with each class having passives covering some of these, as well as the Endurance mechanic. The Endurance threshold is 20% of your character's max HP, plus any modifiers you might have, and should your character be below this health value, any incoming damage will be reduced by your endurance up to 60%. There are 2 ways to unlock a class's skills. Some skills are simply learned by leveling, while others are unlocked by investing points into the passive skill tree. Expanding on the passives, you can further specialize your character through their mastery system, a mix between the classes in Titan Quest 2 and Grim Dawn, as well as the ascendancies in Path of Exile. Partway through Act 2, you will be given the choice of one of your class's masteries, granting you a passive bonus and a mastery skill you can only unlock this way. What's important to note here is that you have full access to your chosen masteries, passives, and related skills in the second half of the tree, but it does not lock you out of the first half of the other masteries, allowing for more combinations of both passives and skills. Should you find yourself not satisfied with how your build is working, you can respec your passive points and, as of Season 2, even your mastery, simply by using in-game gold, making it practically impossible to ruin your character and having to start over with a new one unless you want to grind for a randomly dropped currency in hopes to maybe salvage it. The part where the skill system really gets to shine, though, is the specializations. You unlock specialization slots through leveling, allowing you to specialize up to 5 different skills at level 50. Should you have played Diablo 3, you may be familiar with the rune system, where you get to choose a single rune to alter a skill's element or functionality. With the specializations, you power up your skills with their respective skill tree instead. Once you put a skill into a specialization slot, it starts gaining experience, each level granting you a skill point to invest into its tree. As an example, let's have a look at Warpath, the classic spin to win. Warpath itself is normally a physical skill that simply hits your enemies quite fast. Through specialization, it can be converted to either fire or void damage, including converting the physical damage over time effect Bleed to the fire effect Burn, or both of them to the void effect Time Rot, allowing for more combinations with other skills fitting its specialization, making even this staple skill much more interesting again. At certain character levels, a newly specialized skill will start at a higher level, taking less time to catch its level up. Items are, as always, a very important core aspect. In Last Epoch, you have the expected item slots for various body parts, 2 rings, and an amulet slot, a relic slot, as well as 2 weapon slots you can utilize in different ways. Dual wielding can be found in every character's passives, allowing you to equip specific weapon types in your offhand, while increasing the damage you take. Helmets, body armor, and relics, however, are class-specific gear that can roll class-specific affixes, providing more unique bonuses. There's one other notable addition: idols. Think of idols as the charms in Diablo 2. They're things of varying size in your inventory, granting you a bonus, except they have dedicated slots you can equip them in. As the bigger ones are class-specific, they don't just have standard bonuses like resistances, they also have unique affixes affecting specific class skills, such as Warpath having a bigger area of effect. To get the useful affixes, you need to strengthen both your survivability and your damage. Having an impact on what kind of items you get is very important. Item affixes are categorized into prefixes and suffixes, each item having 2 slots for each, and each item type having limitations on what affixes they can have. For example, resistances cannot roll on weapons, armor normally cannot roll added damage. It is fairly typical for the genre. Last Epoch's crafting system allows you to use affix shards to upgrade an existing affix to up to tier 5, or even add a new one to an unused slot at the cost of forging potential. The used potential is a random amount between 1 and 18. Once the item reaches 0 potential, no further crafting can be done. When crafting, you can also apply glyphs, such as the Glyph of Hope, which has a 25% chance to not use any forging potential, allowing you to craft further than you normally could, and the Glyph of Chaos, which allows you to re-roll the upgraded affix into another one you could normally craft into the base item, giving you a chance to make a slightly off item better for your build. Crafting also incorporates runes, allowing you to reroll the applied affixes values to try for improved stats, randomly remove one of the affixes to create an open slot, or shatter the item to gain affix shards. One rune that stands out is the Rune of Ascendance, which will allow you to craft an item that is neither unique nor set into a random unique or set item using the same slot. Before we get into unique and set items, you need to know about an item type unique to Last Epoch, Exalted items. These are items normally denoted by a purple color that cannot be crafted, only found. While crafting only allows you to bring an affix to tier 5, Exalted items have at least one affix at tier 6 or even tier 7, providing a greater bonus. While in many cases this simply means a bigger number to add or multiply with, there are also class-specific affixes granting you extra skill points to use for your specializations while you have the item equipped. These items will normally drop later into the game. And now for my favorite part, unique items. Unique items are usually items that are a big boost at lower levels to speed up progression, while uniques at higher levels are more likely to be build defining and often live up to the name by adding unique effects. A good example for a leveling unique is the Hammer of Laurent, a two-handed mace without level requirement, 20 to 80% increased melee damage, and more importantly an additional point of physical damage for each of your levels, allowing you to use it for quite some time before you need to find a better weapon. A personal favorite for later game uniques is the Herald of the Scurry. Not only does it give you up to 3 levels with Primalist Summon Wolf, it changes the wolves into squirrels. Yes, you heard right, squirrels. I know I pronounce it weirdly. They may deal 35% less damage than wolves, but instead of summoning your normal amount of wolves, you summon an amount equal to twice your companion limit that are all granted an increased chance to inflict bleed and shred physical resistance, making bleed even more effective. Should you not feel like a bleed minion build, the physical shred effect also just generally makes them hit really, really hard. Uniques can also roll something called Legendary Potential. By completing a dungeon called the Temporal Sanctum, you can take unique but legendary potential and an exalted item of the same type, in the case of the Hammer of Laurent, an exalted two-handed mace, and randomly transfer affixes equal to the legendary potential from the exalted weapon to the Hammer of Laurent, on top of its normal stats, up to a total of 4 affixes. This system allows for lower level uniques to stay relevant later in the game, as they have better odds of rolling higher legendary potential, and can give endgame uniques another boost to their strength. The other side are set items, pieces you combine to get a bigger bonus on top of each item's respective effects. A good example is Velatria's set. It includes the two-handed staff Velatria's Downfall and the helmet Velatria's Storm Crown. The staff converts the major skill Meteor into lightning damage while also providing up to 400% increased lightning damage, while the helmet allows you to penetrate the enemy's lightning resistance, effectively allowing you to deal more lightning damage. The set bonus itself simply adds 1 spell lightning damage per 2 intelligence your character has. Normally these sets are unfortunately overshadowed by exalted and unique items, though 11th Hour Games has been making improvements to make sets more viable. One of these improvements is an option in endgame to shatter set items to get their respective shards, which allows you to craft onto the same item type as the shard's original item. In the case of Velatria's Storm Crown, you can give other helmets, including exalted ones, its lightning penetration affix and make this item count towards the set. As finding appropriate gear to use can be quite a chore in this genre, it is very important to have options to acquire more and better gear. The first and most important loot mechanic are our little friends, the loot lizards. These enemies can randomly spawn in any map, and once you get close to them, they will do their best to get away from you, running through hordes of other enemies. Should you be able to defeat it before it disappears, it will drop better quality loot based on its color. Blue lizards drop idols, yellow lizards drop rare items which can include exalteds, purple lizards are guaranteed to drop exalted items, green lizards will give you set items, and golden lizards net you a unique. Occasionally a defeated lizard will spawn multiple lizards of its type running off in all directions. Hope you got your running shoes on. Season 1 also added the Nemesis system. A Nemesis can randomly spawn in any map and will offer you 4 different items including unique items. Should you decide to fight the Nemesis, it will drop the items as they are displayed. You can empower a Nemesis twice, randomly improving the item's existing affixes or adding affixes to them, including unique items which can also gain legendary potential instead. This allows you to get both exalted and legendary items even in lower level areas. Should the Nemesis hold items you deem irrelevant, you can simply dismiss it and the next encounter will be a new Nemesis with new items. Another important part of how you acquire items are the 2 main factions you unlock later in the game. The Merchant Guild allows for trading between players, giving the ability to scour a marketplace for items fitting for your build and buying them off of other players. The next season makes changes to the system I am already not very familiar with, so this is all I can say about it. This is, however, not the only way to get items from other players, as playing with friends allows you to gift them items you find while they are present. You can also find gold and obsidian resonances, allowing you to send them items you found while playing without them. Obsidian resonances are required to gift exalted items, uniques with legendary potential, and legendary items. My personal preference is the second faction, the Circle of Fortune. It is focused on giving you more agency over your item drops by offering prophecies you can buy for favor gained by defeating enemies while part of the faction. The prophecy menus themselves are separated into 4 sections with specific item types. The north contains prophecies for all armor types, the east contains prophecies for weapons, the south offers rings, amulets, belts, and relics, while the west offers glyphs, runes, idols, and dungeon keys. These prophecies require you to defeat specific enemies, possibly in specific parts of the world, to drop specified items. Once you have unlocked the factions in a season, there will be 2 NPCs in the starting town for new characters. Learn them to join the faction right at the start, rather than late into the campaign, further speeding up your progression through the story. You can only be part of one of the factions at any given time. Something very important to note is, the item stash is not only account-wide, you simply expand it by spending gold on a new tab. The cost increases with each tab bought, and tabs can be modified to have a different name, color, and item priority, putting items fitting the criteria into these tabs first as long as they have space for them. With the insane amount of loot you find later in the game, obviously it is important to have a loot filter. If you played Path of Exile, you're familiar with this mechanic, but the main difference is that Last Epoch's loot filter is built into the game. You can add rules to highlight items of specific rarity with specific affixes or faction requirements by simply making them bold or having them displayed in a different color. You can also simply hide items with lower rarity, as they eventually will no longer provide any upgrades. In Season 3, the loot filter will have sound effects added as well. Now for possibly the most important part of any game in the genre, the endgame. While the story is very well done, and I'm very much looking forward to its continuation, most people want to test both skill and gear of the build by pushing into more difficult content. In Last Epoch, you enter the monoliths, alternate broken timelines where things differ from the story. There are a total of 10 monoliths, each with their own unique little story. When entering a monolith, you start in the center of a web with connecting nodes, each node offering a specific reward type ranging from gold to a unique item. Each monolith also has a special node for a unique or set item drop. For example, the first monolith can offer such a node for bows and quivers, making more targeted item farming possible. Should you die in a monolith node, you can challenge it again, but you will not get the bonus rewards at the end, so you will never be prevented from progression through a monolith, but may lose out on potential gear upgrades. Each beaten node gives the timeline stability, with certain amounts of stability unlocking the timeline story quests. After beating the first 2, you can take on the monolith boss in the third quest, which is either unique to the monolith or an altered version of a story boss, with up to 4 unique items only it can drop. Once the boss has been defeated, you get to choose a blessing, a general passive with each monolith offering ones unique to it. Some of these blessings improve your chances to find specific types of items, while others are actual stat boosts, such as resistances, life, or damage increases. You can now only have 1 blessing per monolith active. While in the monoliths, you will eventually find the in Season 2 added Tombs of the Erased, little dungeons randomly added into nodes. These are the first procedurally generated maps in the game, containing unique enemies, and your main area to acquire Memory Amber, a resource unique to its related faction, the Woven. Unlike the other factions, this one is an addition and does not replace your previous choice. The Memory Amber allows you to buy Woven Echoes from the faction NPC Mask, which can be used in nodes called Cemeteries of the Erased to continue your path through the Echo Web with nodes of your choice. Each Woven Echo beacon gives you unique skill points you can put in the faction's passive tree, changing certain functionalities in endgame, such as preventing arena nodes from spawning or guaranteeing a nemesis in every tomb of the Erased. Once you have defeated your 10th monolith boss, you will encounter your first Harbinger. You will enter the arena and absorb the boss's power, effectively becoming the second phase of the fight, adding its own attacks to a variation of the boss's mechanics. Defeating your first Harbinger unlocks your second endgame faction, the Forgotten Knights, added in Season 1. This faction levels differently from others, gaining a level whenever a new Harbinger is defeated and improves the endgame grind a bit further. With the first Harbinger defeated, you also unlock the Empowered Monoliths. Empowered Monoliths have a standard area level of 100 and start at 100 Corruption. Corruption improves both enemy strength and items you may find. While normal Monoliths start at 0 and have a cap of 50 Corruption, Empowered Monoliths can scale much higher. Corruption is also the mechanic needed to challenge further Harbingers. Each subsequent yet-to-be-beaten Harbinger requires 25 more Corruption than the one before. With the slow increase of difficulty on the Harbingers, I recommend choosing the order in which you challenge them carefully, as some bosses are already harder than others and the additional Harbinger phase can be very brutal because of that. Because of this, I recommend doing Spirits of Fire as your 10th monolith, and your first Empowered Monolith should be Ending the Storm. Seriously, trust me, those suck. This is however not all. Each Harbinger drops an eye when first defeated. Once all 10 have been defeated and the eyes collected, they serve as keys to challenge the pinnacle boss, Aberoth. I won't go into any details on this fight except that I found it quite fun to learn, and having 10 chances to challenge him made it easier to do so. Should you run out of Harbinger's eyes, you can simply go challenge the Harbingers again to try and get more of them, but they are no longer guaranteed. The odds of them dropping does however increase with corruption. One of the most important things to talk about when it comes to modern games with continuing development is the monetization. First off, Last Epoch is a €33.99 purchase, or your regional equivalent, roughly half of what Diablo 4 cost on release. While it is a paid game, it does still have microtransactions, but hear me out. I know microtransactions can be a deal breaker for many, especially on an already paid game, and I get it, I really do. But you really have to give 11th Hour Games credit, because microtransactions are only cosmetic, and I mean only cosmetic. These cosmetics include a variety of things, covering every equipment slot, plus back attachments, footprints, evades, portals, and pets. Some of these things you could get as drops from watching Twitch streams, such as the Bees, More Bees and Most Bees for the first Drops campaign, including a few unique skill cosmetics when they were first implemented with Season 2. There are also supporter packs, each available for a specific amount of time. The current lowest tier, the Woven Traveler Supporter Pack, offers a back attachment, weapon cosmetics, evade effects, and a pet. I mean, who doesn't want to have a Capybara fan join them on their travels, even if it was initially revealed in an April Fool's post. Higher tiers also include a portal cosmetic and full armor sets. When the microtransaction store was initially released, the developers were given feedback based on grievances similar to what was already known of Path of Exile's microtransactions. You will always have points sitting in your account that you will never be able to use because prices are what they are. In response, 11th Hour Games simply changed the prices, making all microtransactions cost 50, 100 or 150 points, with 50 points being $5. But at least they adjust fashion and a nice way to support the continued development of the game. And at least in my eyes, a game not charging you stupid amounts of money to get additional stash tabs, but instead letting you use in-game gold to expand your stash is something worth supporting. One last thing I want to note, that which initially got me started on this video, is that as of July 25th, 2025, 11th Hour Games has been acquired by the South Korean publisher Krafton. For many, there's an understandable concern that Krafton could negatively impact the direction of the game, and I cannot argue that it is possible, but I do not talk about possibilities here, just about the current state of the game. As we approach Season 3, releasing on August 21st, 2025, the game is in a wonderful, very fun and approachable state, with a whole new act, new primordial items, a rework of most of the minion skills in the game, following a massive rework of the Sentinel, and promises nothing but more fun. Should you see the game's Steam page have mixed reviews, as it does while I'm recording this, be aware that it is outrage based on speculations, while we still have an amazing game with rather clear outlines as to what it will and won't do. Without any actual changes made to the game, everyone has been enjoying moments prior to the acquisition announcement. I won't say it will be fine, I do not know for sure, but neither do people saying it won't be. Consider giving the game a shot, check out its actual state, and see if anything I've said changed since. Just make an informed decision for yourself rather than basing it on assumptions. And should you be mad at me still speaking out in favor of the game in its current state, well, you do you. I'm gonna look forward to and enjoy the reworked minions. And if you're unsure about it all, do it for him.